Welcome to another episode of For the Sake of Heaviness. My name is Merciful Mike, and as always, I am joined by...
I am Butch Ballich. Hello, greetings, salutations, all of that.
He is Butch Ballich. He is the legendary Butch Ballich, as we've
Thankfully, there's only one of me. Thankfully for the world.
All right, today we have the pleasure of being joined by Nocteris from Portland, Oregon. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. So before we get into the whole, guts of the conversation, let's kind of can you go around, just introduce yourselves and tell us what part of the band you are the main part of?
Sounds good. I'll start. My name is Sam. I am the vocalist and the bass player for Nocteris.
Awesome.
I'm Matt. I do guitar and I do all the programming and orchestral arrangements, main songwriting.
Cool. My name's Victor. I hit things.
Perfect. All right. So we always kind of like to start with our guests just to get the background information. I reading through your EPK, you guys have got some really interesting backgrounds. So Sam, if you don't mind, if I start with you, I'm gonna give your timeline in real brief, and then we can kind of break it down a little bit. But you are from the UK.
I am.
Came to the USA, joined the Air Force, and then Nocteris came about. Okay, you gotta break that down because that's pretty awesome. So can you expand on that for us?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in England, of course, and then actually my mum, she was a midwife. So she still is. She's worked a lot in healthcare, and she got recruited from a hospital in London. And then, long story short, she ended up getting a job overseas, Tucson, Arizona, of all places. So that was actually that's my American hometown. But we moved over there when I was 16. So, I'm 35 now. I've been here a minute. Accents just stuck around, but yeah, I lived there till I was about 18, and I was like, I need to get the hell out of here. Basically, oh god, minimum wage back then in a restaurant, I think I made $5 an hour. And I was like, I'm gonna die here. So talked to a recruiter. They were like, hey, and turns out you can join with a green card. I actually didn't have my citizenship yet. You can join with a green card. You can only do 5 jobs, but whatever, it all worked out.
Sure.
Yeah, and that was a good time. Bounced around a bit, eventually ended up in Portland, which has been the longest place I've ever lived in the US. So, and I love living here. It's great. But yeah, that's kind of my story.
It's a fascinating story.
Cool. Yeah.
We get a lot of different backgrounds, but as I was reading through that, I was like, that's a story right there. So excellent. Now, when it comes to the band, Matt and Victor, you two are basically the co-founders. Am I getting that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, Matt, you're the creative driving force as far as the arrangements and orchestrations and things go. Can you give us a little bit of a roundabout on how you got into that aspect of creating music?
Yeah. So I like Sam, I was in the military. I did 2 deployments in Iraq, and both times, we have plenty of downtime. I was in the Army, and I just kind of started noodling with music back in 2006 and 2007, and I kind of wanted to start a band when I got out. And when I did, I founded one way back in the day. It was very rudimentary symphonic metal. It's we all grow. And I just the other day I was going through my drive looking at some old recordings. I'm like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? And it's all about growth and stuff. So I moved to Portland in 2018. And I had another band that was leaned into the more Evanescence style. There was some orchestrations in there as well. And it just, didn't really work out, and I started Nocteris, and I wanted to go more back to my roots, which is symphonic black metal, symphonic death metal. I really love Dimmu, and obviously, like, Septic Flesh, I'm wearing my shirt. That really at the heart of me is what makes me really excited about music, is the brutality of blackened death metal with symphonic arrangements. And I got very, very lucky after having reaching out to Victor multiple times for a few different projects. He did get back to me when I sent him a small demo of the stuff that I was working on, and thus Nocteris was born.
Nice.
Matt, what was your background musically that enables you? Are you a trained musician to where like read and write, like you, since you could do the symphonic arrangements, like what got you into that? What was your path that way?
I bought some really old East West Quantum Leap software back in the day when like music programs were shipped out on like DVD, and they were like massive amounts of data and stuff. And
Right.
I was just kind of like, that's where it started. But I used a lot of like YouTube and music books to like learn like how to arrange for orchestra. And I'm still learning. I'm still, each time I start a new project, I want to be better than the last time. And it's going really well. Technology has come so far in the last decade, and when it comes to like symphonic orchestra and choir programming, that it's really mind blowing on the things that you can do in your own bedroom without actually having to hire a full ensemble. And the realism is obviously very good in comparison to 2008. So
Right.
yeah, it's just a grind, and I'm a very driven individual that I'm deeply impassioned by classical music anyway. So I just want to know and learn more from my peers and people who have done it before me.
Very cool.
Just scanning through the MP3s that I received from you, I'd say you're doing a hell of a good job, because it sounds
Well, thank you very much.
sounds fantastic.
We have some really good stuff on the horizon.
Oh yeah.
That's good. That's we're gonna talk to that point in a second. But Victor, I gotta tell you, you've got a bit of a resume here, because you were in I Am Ghost and Emissary. So give us the background on you as well, and the bands that you played in before you joined these.
Yeah, I mean, I'll try to sum it up. I mean, my backstory can take hours, but like, so I grew up in Los Angeles, and I started getting into music around like the late 90s. Back then, it was kind of hard to find people to play with, and it was just something that I've always wanted to pursue. I grew up on like, all the thrash bands, all the big four, Pantera, Iron Maiden, all the classic gateway, metal bands of the time. And
Yeah.
and then sometime around like 2001, when I was going to art school, I was, illegally downloading music from Napster in my college. and one of the albums I got was Misanthropic Puritanic Misanthropia by Dimmu Borgir.
Yeah.
Never heard of them, never heard of any European bands at the time. And it was just like, I don't know, it was a life-changing experience. It was like the exact kind of music I didn't know I was looking for, but something that was like, incorporated like symphonic elements, movie soundtracks with like just heavy blast beats, and just it was mind-blowing to me. And so I just wanted to kind of push myself to be as good as I can with drumming. Drumming was something that kind of came across my life, like I said, like in high school or something, right? But it was really hard to find musicians that can play at that caliber, especially at that time. So I just started to just play along around the LA music scene. And at the time, this was like the MySpace era. So like My Chemical Romance, AFI, Avenged Sevenfold, all those kind of bands were really blowing up. Avenge was from Huntington Beach, which was, you know, pretty close to where I'm from. And I got to see all those bands before they were huge. Like I saw MCR in the parking lot of a Best Buy in Orange, California.
Wow.
I saw Avenged Sevenfold at Soma with Yellowcard and Thrice, and it was like a dual stage thing for New Year's back in like 2001.
Wow.
And all of that was so inspiring to me. That whole era, it was just like this golden era of just like, you know, DIY self-producing music. It was huge. And so I joined a project called I Am Ghost around like 2004.
Okay.
And it was a very like, I was very young. I was 21 at the time, and just a very eye-opening and learning experience. Somehow, by the grace of the gods, we created an EP, and it got attention, and we got an offer from Epitaph Records.
Right.
You know, it was, I mean, it was huge for me because it's like, you know, I grew up with Bad Religion and you know, and Rancid and all those huge bands at the time, and just to be a part of that roster was like a dream, you know.
Sure.
And then you know, after time, things start to become kind of complicated with like contracts and money and egos and stuff, and I just kind of like branched off from there. We parted ways, and then I started to get back into the heavy stuff again. And so like at the time, deathcore was a thing. So like I joined a deathcore band called Incarpathia, and after we put out a solid album, and then that's where I started to learn my chops to play extreme metal. And so blast beats, double bass and stuff was that was a really good time for me to grow as a musician. I joined Emissary through after Incarpathia disbanded, and it was just a bunch of group of guys that we ended up like renting a house, and we did all our self-production. It was like during the gent era, so I was really jumping from genre to genre, but like my heart was always in like extreme metal, death metal and stuff like that.
Sure.
And you know, I basically just kind of got burned out by the LA music scene. I did a bunch of touring. I was like a gun for hire, and I was just like, man, I'm so burned out. And I came to Portland to just kind of like get away from things. And I told myself if I ever join another project, it would have to be something that really speaks to what I want. And that's you know how Nocteris kind of came about. So yeah, here I am.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's amazing that, you know, Portland ended up being the meeting point for the three of you to get together.
Yeah.
Sam, I was curious. We talked about how you came over, and but what was your, you know, what did your musical path look like? What did you start out like that made you want to be a musician and take up bass and get into vocals, and then extreme vocals on top of that?
Yeah. Well, if I start all the way back, and I'll try to keep it brief, but so I first started playing guitar when I was 12. Actually, true story. I was on my BMX bike, probably listening to Linkin Park on my Walkman at the time. And I had wanted a guitar for years, even at that age. And, you know, my just single mom, like my parents were, they never were even married. They were separated, but couldn't really afford a guitar. And it's also like, you know, if I get my kid this, are they even going to play it? Are they going to do anything?
Right.
Anyway, so I'm on my bike coming home from school or something, and I saw this guitar literally sitting in the trash on the side of the road. And I was like, hell yeah. And I ran up. It was like a classical guitar, just grabbed it, went home. It should have stayed in the trash, to be fair. Like, I didn't know at the time, but the action was like stupid high. Like it was just in pretty bad shape. I didn't even know, like, this was before YouTube, right? So I didn't know that you're even supposed to tune it. I didn't know what chords were. I didn't know what anything was. And I basically would just, it's kind of funny, even though I like started with guitar, and I still play a lot of guitar. I actually teach guitar, but looking back, I realized I 100% was playing that guitar self-taught as a bass player, because I would like listen to music and then I would hear like the bass note or the bass line, and I'd hum it and find it. And anyway, so that's just like kind of a interesting realization too. That's kind of how I played it. And after like a year or so of that, I was actually hanging out with my dad, and he was just like, wow, you're actually sticking with this, you're pretty into this. And he got me my first electric and got me lessons, and thank God he did, because I had to unlearn a lot. Right. And then, you know, kind of like on the DIY thing, which I feel like is something we're so unified on and what we have experience with, I started with punk. So a lot of like early music I was playing was a lot of punk. Being from England too, you know, you got like the Sex Pistols and like but interestingly enough, probably because of Napster era time too, I remember also learning about Riot Girl and just seeing, you know, like Bikini Kill and like, and that was like really cool for me because I went to an all girls school. I'm a girl, and just like seeing women in that way was like really cool and really inspiring. So a lot of my first early bands were like all girl bands with classmates, and punk was kind of the origins, because it's also not got this crazy like the entry into that genre is just like a lot more accommodating. It's accessible. And I was really into metal at the time too. Like my dad, I actually got a lot of my great music taste from my dad. He introduced me to like Black Sabbath, which is still a really important band to me, Metallica, Motorhead, the list goes on. And so I started with punk. I was always interested in that, but it kind of seemed like out of the scope of what I could do. So started with punk. Eventually we immigrated to the US. And then I actually kind of like stopped playing for a while. It was just like a big adjustment. You know, I sort of assumed, oh, I watch a lot of American TV, I'll be fine. And it's like, no, it was like, it was a really big adjustment for me. And then honestly, it was really once I joined the military that I was playing a lot more. So, and I, you know, ended up getting myself an electric, and just through various like training programs. Like there was one point in my career that I was at the academy in Colorado and I was supposed to be studying, and I was just like playing hours of guitar instead of studying. And that was kind of a big turning point for me actually when I was there, where I was like, I don't know why I'm here. I don't even want to be an officer. I need to just get out and like get serious about this. And I did get out of active duty. I joined the Oregon National Guard here, Air National Guard. And then that was when I really like just got into things deeper. I also like went to Portland State here in Oregon and like pursued my music education. Also took like my own independent lessons. And that was when I first got into teaching, which is what my primary source of income is now. My wife actually owned a music school and retail store in town called Rose City Guitar Company. And yeah, and like also being here in Portland, there's so much great music. Like metal is just like great here, and also had some great experiences being a part of different projects and yeah, just kind of the scene here and playing in. Like there's another band that in the past, like I'm still in this band. It's called Thirsting Altar. That was, I feel like, the band for me that really got me a lot more involved in the local scene. And then, you know, but similar to Matt and Victor too, like as much as sort of the classic metal bands inspired me really early on, I would say like Dimmu Borgir, Nightwish, Epica, there were like those types of bands were like the really like game-changing staple ones for me. When I heard that music, I was like, holy crap, like this is the coolest thing I've ever heard. And to be honest, I never really like pursued or even tried to like start my own project because of how much that goes into it. So then, you know, when this guy wanted to do it, it's like, yeah, if you want to figure out all the routing, because like especially doing it live, I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot to pull off. So
a lot more than people really understand.
Actually, I was going to ask you about that because, you know, the compositions of your music is so, you know, elaborate, and you are just a trio. Have you three ever thought about expanding the membership of the band even if it's, hired guns for live performances, is that something you would ever consider doing, or how do you feel about that?
we've spoken about this numerous times, and right now with where we are, being a trio and growing as a brand and a band, I think if we were to cross that bridge, I would want to do it when we're at a stage when, people are going to want to like play with us and we can really nitpick the caliber of player,
Right.
because it's not really just about the caliber of player, it's really about the caliber of person. And we're all very close, beyond the band, like we're close friends, and it's really refreshing to have that chemistry because it's stress free.
Right.
Adding an extra person in that out of just feeling like we need it, I just don't think we're there quite yet. In the future, absolutely. But right now we're really focusing on getting that Nocteris name out there, and hitting that social media and doing shows with intention, stuff like that.
Sure. No, that's definitely it's interesting when you have a tight knit chemistry and then you consider bringing somebody else into that fold. They really need to, match that intensity and that chemistry, and that's not always an easy thing to do. So I can respect that 100%.
For sure.
Yep.
What brought the three of you together from the different backgrounds that you had? Like, how did you all end up forming the band?
So after my previous project kind of dissolved, I had way more time to focus on writing for Nocteris, and even at that point, it was in its infancy. I was still trying to figure out the sound. Like when you're starting a project, it's like you have to take into consideration there's got to be time to grow into that sound and figure out like who you are as like an identity, musical identity, and a brand.
Right.
But we started after I found Victor's ad on Craigslist, and I believe Sam was on Craigslist as well, and she reached out to us, and we had this kind of impromptu audition where I re-recorded Spellbound by the Devil by Dimmu from their Enthroned Darkness Triumphant album, and I used that as a means for audition for Sam, and she's like, I love that song. And then we came up with a date to meet, and she came to our rehearsal space, and then we played it and she killed it, and we basically offered her the job right there.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I think the genesis of Nocteris is really just like we just wanted to find like-minded people that like the kind of music that we do. We weren't looking for anyone specifically, like look or whatever. It just kind of like was like a perfect storm of just meeting Matt.
It just fell into
the
pieces fell into place as they should have, organically.
And it just kind of fit because we all have like a really similar mindset and kind of the mood and stuff. We're very humble. We're all very versed in music and stuff, and so there's no like giant egos here. This has been the best experience I've had creatively and musically.
Same.
And I'm very happy in this project. So yeah.
I would say that speaks to the music too, because it sounds very cohesive and very just really good to the ear. It sounds like everything is coming together. A lot of times you hear a band and they put out new music and it's like, wow, that's the most forced stuff I've ever heard in my life. Yours does not come across like that whatsoever. I
think the reason why that may be is because like from the get-go we wanted this to be a really collaborative project. And there, like Victor was saying, ego isn't a factor, and I might be the architect of like the sound of a song, but that's only phase one, because then I send Victor my ideas, and then he makes his own drum parts as he should.
Right.
And Sam's doing her bass parts and her lyrics to the vocals that I love. I think she brings a lot of thought and intentionality to the lyrics that just go beyond some like black metal, death metal cliches.
Mm-hmm.
There's life meaning behind it. And that's what I really appreciate. And that's the story that we're trying to tell.
I think you're doing a fine job of it. Sam, can I ask you about your vocals? Because they come across brilliantly. Now,
Yeah.
going from you, like you said, you started with a punk background. How was the transition, vocally to singing extreme metal and black metal in general?
Yeah, I mean, so I have to thank Melissa Cross and the Zen of Screaming.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay.
like, actually, I don't know if you remember that DVD series. Now it's like,
Yeah,
it might even be on YouTube or something. But I didn't even know that there was like a separate video where I kind of talk about this, where like I didn't even know that like women could growl, which I know is a funny thing to say. But like when you're not exposed to that and it sounds so like deep and gnarly, I
right.
hadn't really seen it. And it was actually the original artist was OTEP. Like I remember, God, I don't know. I was a teen as well. I was in my like late teens, but I came across OTEP's music, and then also learned about Ozfest, and then there was bands like Kitty, and then like eventually like Angela Gasell of Arch Enemy, and I was like, holy shit, this is so cool. I had no idea that you could even do that. And then even when I heard that music, that like set off a light bulb, but it was also still a little intimidating. Like I don't even know where to begin, how I could do that. And then I don't even remember when it was, but like whenever the Zen of Screaming DVD series came out, and I think I grabbed it from a guitar center somewhere I was stationed. I don't even remember where. And I was just like, oh, hell yeah. And I watched that and I did all the exercises and practiced a lot in my car. That's how it started. So just literally just screaming and trying to make noises in my car. I remember the first breakthrough being something like stupid to like, imagine you're a pissed off teenager and your mom tells you to clean your room and you just go, ugh, and you just make that noise. And I remember that just being like, that's it. And then like there were other things too, like using certain muscles, which but yeah, like it all kind of started like that. I was very self-motivated, so I didn't have a lot of my background throughout life has been largely sort of self-teaching too.
Mm-hmm.
Like later on with guitar, I got the academic background as well, but I had a lot of self-motivation, and with vocals, I really wanted to know how to do it. So like heading home from work, from the job I had in the military, I used to practice in the car like every day. And I also used to run a lot then. And there was like a park that I used to run around the park just screaming like an actual crazy person. I just did it.
Tremendous.
And it was good though, because it was activating everything. So I was just running around. That was by the time I was in Portland that I was doing that. There was a park in like Southwest where I was the crazy person just screaming in circles at a park. But yeah, like that's kind of my background, I guess, as far as figuring out how to do it. Now, because of that and because of not having like official lessons, sometimes if you were to ask me, what is the exact technique? Is that false versus fry? Like, I feel like I know what those things are, but I'm more like, it's more intuitive of like, I want it to sound like this and I just go for that, So.
And one thing I have to compliment Sam on too is that when we're recording, she's so good at working on the fly. If she brings an idea and then we have to adjust it for whatever reason, if it's like a cadence thing, like she can instantly, just nail it, just improvise without having any prior prompts. Nice. So it's refreshing to work with somebody that's like open-minded and extremely talented.
I love extreme vocals too, because again, being a woman, sometimes like it's actually sometimes more intimidating for me to do cleans. Like I could do cleans too, but it's like, oh, it has to sound so angelic, especially when like so many of my influences for clean vocals are like Nightwish and Epica. It's like, yeah, okay. Like I always liked with extreme vocals, it's like, imagine you're this sea wench, just like you just like, I love it's the same as like if I were ever into theater, which I've not been in my life, I always said that I would want to be like the witch, or I want to be this, you know, and like, so that's my favorite part of extreme vocals too, is like you get to just be really like goofy with it and experimental, and yeah,
it's funny, like, you know, during recording process, like the motions that we do to try to you know get these like these gutturals out, and it's just really comical, like if you captured on video, but then, you know, in the playback it's like, oh fuck yeah, that's brutal. You know, so
all the contortions that you're going through.
It's quite the tonal shift to listen to our songs, because like I know Sam on a personal level and I talk to her all the time, and it's like, you know, when she starts to yell, it's like, oh my god, it's like an alter ego. Like, you know, the beast within coming out, and it's like, damn, Sam, I didn't know you could sound like that. You know? It's really cool.
That's tremendous. Sam, the part that goes hand in hand, of course, with the vocals are the lyrics, and Matt, you know, briefly talked about that. Now, do the two of you work on concepts for the lyrics together, then you write all the lyrics, or do you split the lyrics, or what's your process for generating your melodies, and then you know, your lyrical ideas? Are you the kind of person that keeps a journal all the time? You're always writing things, or do you write specific to the song? Sorry, that was like 20 questions at one time.
I can give an anecdote. We were driving home together from rehearsal one night, and we were trying to come up with an idea lyrically for, at the time it was song 6. Now it's called Spellbreaker. And we were just kind of talking about life, and, you know, Sam, not to speak for Sam's, you know, personal issues, but she was going through a series of things that were really not good. And I'm like, Sam, you know, jokingly, I'm like, Sam, you need a spell breaker. And it was this light bulb moment where she's like, oh, and then she just starts crafting lyrics.
It's like she was cursed or something.
Oh
yeah.
my God. Yeah.
And that's what the song is essentially about. It's about breaking these perpetual curses and
adversities and challenges.
Yeah.
Well,
can I ask a specific question about that song? Because in doing a little bit of research leading up to this, I came across, I think it was a little interview. Does a laundromat have something to do with what happened there?
Yes,
okay.
It does.
Would you please expand on that a little bit? Because I'd love to hear it from you.
I love this, because I feel like every other song that's been written has like a cooler story and is more serious. And it's not that Spellbreak is not a cool story and it was crafted in that way, but it's kind of written from a very like amusing experience that I went through. So, you know, after Matt and I had that talk in the car, part of my unfortunate situations is like just shitty car. I had like 3 cars in a row all experience engine failure, and like I all lemons. And I even got like my wife and I got a car from a dealership. We were even like, we're going to get our loan. We're going to make sure, you know, we're getting something solid.
Right. And
like still within like 4 months, engine failure. So, and I felt like I was having a lot of bad luck with stuff like that, among other things. And when Matt said you need to hire a spell breaker, or you need to see a spell breaker, it like triggered this memory of a time years ago during like the peak of COVID, or it was either 2021, 2022, something like that. And my wife and I had actually like renovated and were like living in an RV and like traveling around in it. And but at the time we were back in Portland, and we were at a laundromat. And she was like, you know what, if you could just take care of the laundry, I'm going to go take care of these other chores, and I'll be back. And, you know, at the time that takes like an hour or 2. So it's kind of a longer process. And I'm in there with a very mentally unwell person who is literally just like screaming into the back of my head. Like it's like at me, but like it's through me. You know, that person is not really aware of probably their own surroundings. And but the guy, he would go from screaming to then like running to this suitcase he had, and he'd look at me all suspiciously and pull all his clothes out, and then he'd put them back in. And at no point did he actually do laundry. It was just like just tweaking out or whatever. And so he would go from that to then screaming at me, go back to that. And at one point, I saw him with a notepad run outside, and he was scribbling things, staring at me the whole time into this notepad. And then at some point, he just set it all on fire. Ooh. And then and my wife comes back to the laundromat 2 hours later. By then, I'm just like completely overwhelmed. And we have like a really silent car drive. And then I don't even remember what we were talking about, but I just like,
trying to digest all
that. Can I swear on here? Okay. Fuck yeah. I was just a fucking bitch. I just was like, I just like started an argument for no reason, which is like, I can't express enough how like anti-conflict I am, and like how I just, even when I'm pissed off, this is why I scream. I don't actually usually express my anger. Right. And that day I was just unhinged. And then she was just like, what the hell happened? Like, who are you? What is this? And then anyway, like, then we got to talk about the person at the laundromat, and she was like, okay, this makes sense. And then she was like, I think this dude put a fucking curse on you, basically. It's just like, I've never seen you like that. Your face looked different. Like, everything about you was different.
He was casting spells.
So anyway, that's been the long-standing joke of since that day, I've been cursed with bad luck. And, you know, when I was first writing lyrics for Spellbreaker, I actually had a totally different idea in mind, and I'd written the lyrics, and I was just not into it. You know what I mean? If you ever just like, you've like wrote and you're just like, not as excited about this as the others. And then when he said that, I was just like, oh my God, I've got to do this. And also I think, you know, maybe this is enough to break that curse. So that's the story behind the laundromat and Spellbreaker.
That's awesome. I was like, I gotta ask about that one for sure. So Spellbreaker is a fantastic song.
Thank you.
I gotta tell you, when I first, got the EPK, Fleshbound Devotion, that one just, man. Now I know that you guys say that you wear your influences on your sleeve. Yeah. I can pick out parts of Emperor, definitely Dimmu Borgir, but you guys do that in a sense that is still very uniquely your own. It's not a cookie cutter copycat thing at all. Which kudos to you guys for that. Which speaks volumes to the way that you guys compose. So when it comes to the song structures and things like that, as far as presentation goes, what you want the listener to take from that, do you mentally kind of keep that in the back of your head as you are creating?
Yeah. So when I start songs, going back to being as collaborative as I can, I'll have an idea, and it might be like a 16 bar or 32 bar idea. And I'll get a good example of what I'm trying to go for. And then we have our little like Discord or Google chat, like song ideas thread, and I'll just post ideas. And then usually they're like, yeah, that's great. And then I just kind of keep going. But I always try to keep like in mind, like, especially now with like some of the new music that we're working on, we're keeping this a similar structure, but we're focusing on hooks and having parts that are a little bit more memorable, because self-assessment, there's some songs I'm like, yeah, maybe we could have been a little bit more like hit that point home a little harder. Some of the new songs are going to have that same intensity, if not more, but have a really intentional memorable aspects to the song that I think people are going to like gravitate to.
So I think with Fleshbound, that was like our first.
It was the very, very first.
And it was just kind of like, trying to create the tone that we're going for. I knew that
it was before Victor. Sorry.
Yeah. But when I heard it, that's what got me to join the project, was like, this is really, really awesome, and like, as we progressed, we started to kind of like figure out that like, instead of being a riff oriented band, like actually focus on like, more traditional song structures and hooks and stuff like that. Like, put yourself in the crowd and just kind of like, what would you like to hear as a listener? Right. And it's like,
Right. Yeah.
But we're still evolving and we're still maturing as a band, and
Mm-hmm.
so we might experiment with things here and there, but right now we're kind of going for that kind of like solid songwriting plus hooks with our songs and stuff. So
I'd say you're succeeding on all levels there. Butch and I always talk about how much we love music that really pulls you in and takes you on that journey and takes you to another plane. And I've always felt too that, symphonic metal and symphonic black metal really lends itself to taking the listener on that journey, because, the way things ebb and flow, and especially with the
Mm-hmm.
orchestrations and all that too. But you guys have also, really pulled off, the metal side of it. The riffs on Medusa, for me, I was like, man, this is just cranking out.
That's a show closer for sure.
Yeah.
That's definitely a favorite.
Yeah. I mean, that's a
kind of
banger,
add on
man.
what you were talking about. I mean, I'm seeing like you're a big fan of Kiss and stuff, and so like my biggest influences are bands that are like Merciful Fate, King Diamond, Kiss and stuff, and like the style of music that we play, I feel like has a symphonic and theatrical element too, and it's like very escapism too, like it's all grounded on like fantasy and things like that, and it's like we don't want to show up on stage and look like we just got out of the gym or something, especially when we're playing this kind of like this kind of stuff.
So with that, to add to what Victor was saying is like, we've before we started playing, we spent a lot of time, nailing the songs, through, rehearsals, figuring out, what the stage is going to look like when we are playing on it. We have automated fog plumes that we're using for certain drops in the songs that really help emphasize some of that theatrical and the automated lights that we have programmed, which really help emphasize a lot of that, like the blast beats I have programmed, that strobes and everything. So just it helps create more of an atmosphere that I think the music deserves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think a lot of bands over time, I think, I mean, I'm old, I'm like 55, so I think when things kind of fell apart for hard rock and heavy metal, like in the early 90s, and a whole wave of bands came in that weren't as focused on, when bands came out, we're just wearing flannel and stuff. Like for a while, bands in some ways forgot about the entertainment aspect of, putting on a show. And so it's always refreshing for me. Like I grew up, like you said, I'm a big Kiss fan. I've always loved, I mean, I love a club show where it's just like smoke and grit and booze and whatever going on, just a dirty rock show. But I also still love, like, I love a show. Like, they're, even when bands do small things, like they got scrims on the stage, or, they do special things. They got, either the dark, when I saw Tribulation, the way that they had the darker lights, so, those more saturated colors and the scrims on the stage. And it's stuff like that I think like people in the crowd like take that back with them. So I think it's cool when bands, especially like you said, this style of music like is made for you can and should do a show. And I think it's
Absolutely.
great that you say that you are. So that's fantastic.
It's just another level of like detail that we had to spend a lot of time on before we could actually like execute it appropriately on stage. And we finally did, and it was great. And it's really it's fun to see the playback, and video wise to see those fog plumes blow up while you're playing on stage.
And a lot of feedback from the crowd too. I mean, they really like that kind of stuff, and it's like it's cool because we have a lot of creative control with the way we want to like portray ourselves, and learning all this tech and adding those types of elements in our live show just makes it fun. For us, it's like
there's one like little thing I want to add, which is like a big deal to me. First, I've been in a lot of extreme metal bands, and I have never in my life till this band had it where multiple shows now, the like last couple shows we've done, there was someone in the front or a couple people in the front screaming my lyrics at me. And I'm just like,
it's self-validating.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like most of the time that like they don't know what I'm saying.
There's
like,
people, the last show, there's people that like wanted to take like fan photos of us.
Yeah,
like, they were standing
it's like what?
That's really humbling.
Yeah,
especially still being a newer band, you know.
I mean,
we spent
tremendous.
a lot of time on this, and
once
we launched.
Our next show is June 20th, and that's going to be our fourth show. I mean, and it's in Spokane, Washington, you know, and then we're back in Portland the next night at the high water mark with a band that's on tour from LA on June 21st. And then we're in Seattle in August and stuff. So things are really happening, and we're excited to, you know, book out the fall and the winter, and 2027, you know, we got a lot of plans, and we're looking forward. Yeah, a lot of work to do, but it's good work. So
actually, we can expand on that a little bit too, because you know, I know you've got the Shadowborn EP, and I know that you guys are kind of releasing singles at a time, which I think it seems to be the way to go these days. A lot of bands are doing it, but ultimately, I'm assuming there's a full length that you guys would hopefully want to get out. So walk me through that as far as, you know, if there's a full length on the schedule, and then talk to us about touring and the shows, and what are the goals that are coming up as far as getting Nocteris out there and much more visible.
Can I take this one?
Yeah.
So the full length, we've had conversations about releases, and the singles approach in terms of music releases, that's totally fine. I think it depends on, you know, how you want to approach releasing your music. And we have a couple of releases out there that we're still playing live. And with this next big release, we are wanting to spend a little bit more time on getting all the songs finalized with arrangement, getting the vocal parts done. And, you know, with a hopeful drop in 2027, I think would be realistic. That's not to say that we won't have these like little drops. Like if we're going to do a cover, we'll probably drop something between now and then the album, you know, just to kind of, you know, keep the algorithm going and stuff. But in terms of 2027, one of the biggest goals that we have is getting a van. We are, you know, like many bands, we're using our personal vehicles, and that just puts wear and tear on our stuff. And if we want to get out of the city, which we want to do, you know, regularly in the state, we're going to need a van. So that's one of the biggest things that we're working on right now. So Canada and the Pacific Northwest, like a short West Coast tour, like that's what we want to do. So man, like that's what really excites me is getting on the road and doing this.
Yeah, I think this year has really been like a growing kind of phase for us, where it's like we're supporting Shadowborn for the rest of the year, and then we're kind of in the phase of like, okay, what is the next level? What is the next step, right? Because we don't want to like just be a local band, you know, like we want to take this as far as we can. And so right now we're building networks, we're making friends, we're reaching out, we're kind of doing our own kind of promotion as well. And definitely by 2027, we're going to start, you know, possibly working on our full length and getting, you know, reasonable transportation.
We'll release the album in 2027, early 2027.
Yeah, in support of that. So, you know, right now we're finishing off this leg as far as the year supporting Shadowborn, and then once the full length is released, we're gonna see how we're gonna support that as well, with expanding where we're gonna actually play and stuff like that. So yeah, lots in the works right now. Yeah. It's all out of pocket right now, so we're seeing what kind of avenues we can explore to get that kind of funding and stuff. So yeah.
And still hitting social media.
Yeah. Content.
Do you have
it's things like this that we're doing right now that we're so appreciative of you guys taking time to interview us and get that Nocteris name out, and it's really fun to sit and talk.
Yeah,
it's our pleasure. Absolutely.
Yeah,
real quick, is there any label interest, or have you reached out to anybody? Are you pretty satisfied that this is going to be like a self release, or how is that working for you?
I think at this time where we are right now, we've kind of collectively decided that we're going to keep this internally and indie.
Sure.
That way we have the most control over what we're releasing and when.
Yeah.
And we're, like Victor was saying, we're in complete control over what the graphics are, how we market, you know, and the creative direction of everything. So we don't have any external influence on that. Not to say that in the future, you know, that might not be something that we, you know, cross over, but right now we're strictly indie.
Yeah, it's, you know, and if we do get any kind of you know, offer or anything, we would definitely talk about it and stuff. There's, you know, legal things and stipulations that come with signing with a label, and it's like that becomes pretty much your full-time job at that point, right? And so right now we're, you know, still trying to just build the brand. And we're not really like focused on the label side of things, but you know, we're not going to like not look at an offer and see what kind of options there are if it comes our way, you know.
Yeah. I feel like there are probably ways to one of the hard things right now about doing things DIY is the freaking mail service. You know, over the years, just how expensive that got, where it's not as easy to mail records over to Europe anymore. Or I was just on one of the sites that I was on, they were talking about I forget the name of the band they were talking. Oh, there's a band called Catalano. I think they're like a hard rock band, but out of Australia. And people are talking about the immense expense of get records over there. So I don't know what the distribution networks are. Maybe there's a way to, you know, still do things on your own, control it, and then if you have someone on the other side, you know, where metal is, you know, especially like, you know, extreme metal still really, you know, big too, to make a connection over there and like get the stuff like into people's hands.
Yeah, we're I think we're kind of focusing on like the streaming platforms for now, just because that's like
gotcha.
The fastest way to get out to people. We'll definitely start talking about like distributing like physical copies of our music and stuff. I think that's definitely a bridge we're going to cross at some point. But yeah, as far as like, you know, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music and stuff, like that's kind of like been our main focus right now. And then if you come to our shows, you know, you can purchase stuff on like Bandcamp as well. I know. But yeah, definitely physical media is something we'll look into in the future for sure.
The nice thing about like being on Spotify is that they've rolled out an integration with Shopify, and not going down like a, you know, music marketing rabbit hole. But like what's nice is that, you know, with a Shopify account and then with a print on demand company like Ninja transfers or something, like they will integrate and you can have your merch up on Spotify. So it just gives more eyes on to like, you know, that, oh yeah, this band does have merch and this is another way to support them. And honestly, the best way to support us is to, you know, go on Bandcamp and like, you know, give us a couple bucks for the music. You know, that goes a long way. It goes into a fund and it helps with gas, you know, all the necessities and stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of avenues, and shipping is insane. I mean, we've sold a few shirts on Bandcamp with people that are out of state, and the prices for shipping just a t-shirt is like crazy.
Yeah,
you know, at least $10. You know, like it's wild. But yeah, coming to the shows and picking up stuff there is really the best way.
I'm just trying to get out there and like people can buy the stuff, you know, in person. So it's just a matter of us getting out there as much as we can, which we have very strong plans to do. So
yeah.
No, I would say it, you know, it sounds through our conversation, you guys have a very solid plan on getting yourselves out there. So Sam, can you give a quick plug? I just wanted to know a little more about Rose City Guitar Center, because this sounds like a really cool place, because you also have like a community space. So do you have other aspiring artists and musicians that visit and play, or how does that work?
Yeah, so well, Rose City Guitar Company, my wife and I actually founded and started in 2020, which was a wild time. But thankfully it all worked out. It actually worked out because it started out only as a guitar school first.
Okay.
which was what I was also like more comfortable with because my background had been teaching. But even in the early stages, she and I both talked about how we want to get into retail, create an event space, like be able to do shows, like be a community hub. So yeah, we started in 2020. That we all know what happened, but fortunately, a lot of people were stuck at home, losing their mind, seeing their guitar sit in a corner. So it was actually a very good time for people to like either pick it back up again or start fresh. And you know, Zoom, doing a lot of Zoom lessons back then. But then once things opened back up again, we ended up getting a studio, really wanted to do things in person, and especially have lots of like group and community based opportunities. Like we do a lot of like group lessons and have opportunities for students to perform. We do concerts a couple times a year. Like we have one coming up in the summer where we'll like hire a professional drummer and all the students get to like, you know, pick the songs that they're going to perform, and we do all the rehearsals and prepare for that. But yeah, outside of that, I mean, that's also entirely self-funded. We didn't like take out loans or get grants or anything. So it's been like kind of a slow and gradual process. But we're at a point now where we had like, I guess it was like 2 years ago, we had a stage built in the space. So that's been really nice to have not just like local bands, but also like we have bands that come through on tour. My wife is a guitar player as well. She plays very different music to us. It's like percussive finger style. So there's this guitar player called Ali Todd, who's actually coming to the shop on May 22nd from Scotland. And, you know, had a lot of, you know, people in that world and come out and like in addition to doing shows at our shop, a lot of times they'll like play a show and then also do a workshop during the day where like
that's
not
super
only
cool.
our students but other people in the community who maybe want to learn directly from these artists can come in and learn from them and do a workshop. A while back even we had a show in the shop. Yeah.
That was interesting.
It was interesting because, like, to be fair, my shop is not probably the best space for metal. It is kind of more of an intimate, like, you know, it works like we've had some like rock bands and stuff in there, but obviously metal's like very loud, lots go into it.
Yeah.
It's very singer-songwriter friendly.
Yeah,
it's like a cafe kind of.
But like we went into it with the intention of like, let's do this show, invite everyone we know, and just because this was also like in the beginning where we was like, we just need to make sure we can execute things.
We're just
and,
testing,
like, you know,
test the waters.
But yeah, so that's Rose City Guitar Company, and we're just continuing to, you know, try to expand and build things more, especially like, you know, we're really focused more on the community aspect. In all reality, when it comes to like the retail side of things, because a lot of it is self-funded and self-curated, we're not going to have, like, we don't have a way to purchase online right now. And also like the what we have in the store is not going to be as diverse or robust as like if you compare it to Guitar Center or something. Right. But it is, you know, it is pretty nice to like have it be, you know, we have anything from sort of like certain entry level guitarists for some of our students to like, you know, I mentioned my wife specializes in like acoustic fingerstyle. Right. There's also certain companies that she works with and she believes in where we have the more like boutique higher end acoustics in the shop as well. And we even have some like local luthiers displaying their guitars in the shop. So it's like, it's nice to also be able to offer some things that are like unique, not just to like local Portland luthiers, but also like a lot of these companies like Stonebridge or Ferk guitars, which Stonebridge, I believe, is out of the Czech Republic. You know, just like not you that kind of stuff you can't actually get at Guitar Center, so you do have to come and see us. Right. So that's been kind of nice.
I wish you continued success with that endeavor because it sounds fantastic. So
thank you.
Yeah.
So we always kind of like to end our interviews on like a, you know, a fun kind of goofy question. So since
not that we didn't have fun the whole time.
Very true. This has been a great interview.
Now that we were all serious. Now
so what we're going to ask you, since we were, talking about getting the band out on the road and things like that, if you could build the absolute dream tour of Nocteris and 2 other bands, who would it be?
Oh,
Victor, you want to take this?
Yeah. Crypta and Septic
yeah.
Flesh.
Oh yeah. That would be I like that a lot. That'd be a great tour.
And or possibly Nervosa too. They're really
Another
good.
one. Wow. I would definitely check that out if it rolled through here. I'm in Milwaukee and Butch is in Pittsburgh.
yeah.
So yeah, we get a lot of different things that come through. Unfortunately though, Milwaukee is kind of like a B stop. It's not even a gas stop anymore. We missed some pretty good shows, but
I wonder if it's because you guys are so close to Chicago and
it is. Yeah, it is. Chicago absorbs quite a few, but I don't know. Some bands make the point to come up here, but yeah, that sounds great.
Pittsburgh used to be a lot years ago. It was a lot. We got a lot fewer bands here. They would always seem to hit Cleveland, and then now there are a good bunch. Though I guess it depends on who the promoter is, but they'll send them up to Youngstown, which is about an hour and 15 minutes from here. I know there's a few bands coming in June that they'll go to Youngstown, but then they don't come down into Pittsburgh. I'm like, come on. I don't mind driving though. So,
well, you've got 2 people here. If you ever, start to cruise east, we'll definitely take care of you. So before we wrap it up, is there anything else that you guys want to put out there and plug?
We're just working really hard at getting that album out, and I think that's the next biggest thing for Nocteris in terms of releases and getting on the road for long trips in 2027. So just stay tuned, follow us on social media, definitely check us out on Spotify, give us a follow on Instagram, say hi, and appreciate the interview.
Absolutely. We'll make sure we put all the essential links in the YouTube description too, so everybody can just click away and
thank you
and have easy access to everything that you guys have available. So
yeah, everyone definitely check out Nocteris. Go to their Bandcamp and buy some tracks, man.
Absolutely.
Help them get that van and help them get the wizard sprayed on the side and everything.
Yeah. Nice.
Well, definitely do not be a stranger. Our platform is your platform. If we can ever help you guys out in any way, just please let us know. We'll be happy to have you back on the show again. So keep us posted on everything Nocteris.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'd be great to have you back again. It's been really nice meeting you, all of you.
You as well.
You too.
Absolutely. All right.
Good evening.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see everybody one more time coming up again soon on For the Sake of Heaviness.
Submissive prayer expectations, your prison cell. Each chisel chips away, crumbling to the